Shalom and good day all, this is Tehillim29 back again for another DC comic review, and this time I have 3 comics which I'll be reviewing, and they are Batman Audio Adventures 2022 issue 1, Detective Comics, and last but not least Action Comics. I'll now set things up for the first one that I'll be reviewing, and then I'll move on to the other 2. So I'll be beginning with Action Comics, issue 1047. And first things first, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that's happening inside with the story? Sure enough it does, to which I give a 7 out of 10. Just to point out, I will not be covering the backstory of Action Comics or Detective Comics, but I will be covering the main story. So now it's time to move into the internal art as we look around the beginning, middle, and of course the end, as well as some of the things that are happening story-wise. So as this story begins, we've got someone coming to visit Metallo in the prison, and it looks really interesting here, as we've got like a fully somewhat cyborg-like Metallo here, or even more robotic of turn. I'm not too sure who it is that's seeing him. I did get a bit confused thinking it was Lois. It's definitely not Lois. Maybe it's actually someone who likes him. I'll now start to move towards the middle of the story. So jumping towards the middle of the story, we have Lex Luthor using one of his suits connected to some tech that he has on Earth as he goes to explore Warworld. And last but not least, towards the end, to which we see Superman catching up with Lois, and they talk about, of course, the new kids that they've brought in to sort of like add to the Superman family, but also how Lois misses a young John Samuel Kent too, like many of us do who read the DC universe. So moving into the art rating, I give a 6.5 out of 10, but I think the reason why the art was the way it was in relation to the Earth, and also why Warworld was actually brought so close to Earth as well, was to show its reflection onto Earth, but it still gets a 6.5 out of 10 from me. But moving into the story rating, first things first, did we get any comic references to any of the previous issues? No, we didn't. So now it's time to move into the next area, and that is time. Now, the area of time we had 1 week ago and 1 week later, but I'll soon address to where the 1 week ago is connected to, and that is in our area of our location, to which it's connected to Stryker's Island, to which Metallo gets to visit, and then not long after that we end up moving into Warworld. The cast of characters consisting of Metallo, Superman, Superboy, Supergirl, Connor, Steel, Lex Luthor, or the Steel family members, Lex Luthor, and last but not least, Lois Lane. For the overall story rating for this, I gave a 7.5 out of 10. I'll now get things prepared for the next comic that I'll be reviewing. So moving into the next comic that I'll be reviewing, and that is Detective Comics issue 1064. And first things first, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to any of the story that's happening inside, anything inside of the story, inside the comic? Sure enough it does, to which I give a 7 out of 10. I'll now move into the internal art, or looking at the internal art, which will look around the beginning, middle, and end, as well as things that are happening with the story. So, as the story begins, we get a bit of a discussion between Damian Wayne and Talia, to which I definitely find the art is quite interesting here, as he looks a little bit tall for his age, to be completely honest. As we move to the middle of the story, we have Batman meeting up once again with Talia, to which they have a bit of a fight against some ninjas and whatever else. And last but not least, towards the end of the story, to which we have the Orkhams finally arrive at the Gotham docks. So for the internal art, I gave this a 6.5 out of 10, as in some places it did sort of feel a little bit rushed, and it felt like it needed a little bit more attention to detail. But apart from that, there were some nice things that I did enjoy, especially at the beginning and also when Batman caught up with Talia again. Now it's time to move into the area of the story. First things first, did we get any references to any of the previous issues or anything that might also help us in this comic story run? No, we didn't. Moving into the next area, time, to which the only reference we got was a long time ago. No particular amount of time. I do feel when that is actually put in a comic, it is very lazy. Even if it was, say, for example, say 6 months ago, at least it gives a bit of an idea as to when it played out, or when that part of the story played out, or even 5 or 10 or whatever years ago. It would really help bring more depth to the story. So moving into the next thing, and that is the location. First things first, we of course returned to Gotham City, wherever we were in the Middle East at the beginning of the story, which would have been nice to know, but it wasn't actually pointed out where, which is really disappointing. And of course we had the Gotham City Hospital as well as the docks. Moving into the cast of characters, we had Talia, we had Damian, we had Fahad, who was actually in the story. Of course, the Orkhams. We had Batman. We had a couple of other places as well, or a couple of other people as well. Prince Arzen and Queen Daria. And we also had the character of Lewis. Overall story rating for this, I give a 7 out of 10. One thing I would sort of do with this story, instead of like playing off the Court of Owls idea, which is what this is sort of doing, how about you have these people, instead of doing what they did with the Court of Owls, what if they actually created a fake deed? Right, I think that would make more sense to the story, instead of creating the idea that in this story, these people are the original, but instead we could learn that they're not actually the original founders of like Arkham, but instead they created a fake deed to make it look like they did. And I think that would make more sense, and it would serve for a better ending. So I'll now move on to the last thing that will be reviewed, and that is the Batman Audio Adventures. So now it's time to move on to the Batman Audio Adventures, and first things first, and that is the rating for the cover. Does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that's happening inside with the story? Sure enough it does, to which I give a 7 out of 10. I'll now move to showing the internal art around the beginning, middle and end, as well as some of the things that are happening story-wise, and then the rating of the art will happen next. So as this story begins, we end up meeting the character of Killer Croc, and of course a couple of goons who are seeking some help from him, or better yet, who have asked for help from him. And of course, there's a bit of a treasure that he's given here. And you can see that he's slightly drawn to something that's actually in the picture. As we draw to the middle of the story, I'm sorry that you're getting single pages here. We get someone coming up against King Scimitar, who is in the story. And they almost look to be like a type of ninja of sort, even though they're not. And as things draw closer towards the end, we see Killer Croc, of what he thought or suspected was a doll, has somehow come to life, and now it's giving him a cuddle. So for the internal art in this, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10, as it felt really fun, along with the story, what was happening here for the first issue. I'll now move into the area of the story and its rating. And first things first, in the area of time, because we've got time first. When does it take place? We get months ago, but we don't get like exactly how many months. The next thing is location. Of course, we had the Gotham sewer, or the Gotham sewer line, and of course Gotham itself. Moving into the cast of characters, we had Joker, we had Harley Quinn, we also had King Scimitar, the Seventh Syndicate, Killer Croc, Batman, Gordon, Robin, Alfred, and last but not least, Deris Brood. I think I'm saying that correctly. For the overall story rating, I gave this a 7.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed this, and I think this would probably be good for any other kid to enjoy too. If you want something that's like good, almost old-fashioned storytelling, knows where it's headed around the beginning, middle, and end, this thing knows where it's going, and I would highly recommend it. To which I give the story rating a 7.5 out of 10. Until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day.